Ashley, great to see you again. Welcome back to Popternative.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you too.
It's good to see you. And it's interesting, right? Because, we're talking about Some Other Woman. And, I want to know because this one specifically, the psychological kind of thriller, emotional roller coaster begin to end with this. And there's a lot of kind of detective work as an audience member being like, what is really going on here? Like, what am I, like, what is happening? What's it like reading a script specifically for the first time for a film like this? Take me through that, even before filming it, so to speak.
Yeah, we definitely put the audience to work on this one. Put your thinking caps on. But I had to reread the script about 3 times to fully wrap my head around it, and then had a conversation with Joel David Moore, who directed it, who happens to be a dear friend of mine, and said, Joel, I think I get it, but let's have a conversation. And we really kind of took apart the script and layer by layer because, as you mentioned, it really is. There's a lot that is up to interpretation, and there's a lot that I feel like different people will latch on to different things and different versions of these characters depending on what your life experience has been.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really beautiful about that because if you want to talk about why we create art, I think part of it, one is to connect people and to move people and to give people an escape, but to really get people having conversations. And so I think this film really does a great job with that. But it's certainly, there was a lot of work that I had to put into it prior, because one of the questions I remember asking Joel was, whose truth is right? Whose truth is real? Whose truth do we believe? And that was, and I think I had to figure that out, and the audience will have to figure that out
Yeah.
too, is kind of navigating whose truth do you tap into.
So to kind of add to that, because I find that interesting, when you read it for the first time and have those conversations about kind of talking about it more, how does it read the most to you? Like, does it read like just as like a psychological horror? Do you focus more as the love triangle component? Does the kind of freaky, like, wow, what is going on component? Like, how does it read specifically based on what you just said, so to speak?
Um, it's tough because if I didn't know who my character was, um, I think I would look at it as a film about gaslighting.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
um, and I think that's really important to kind of also highlight. I think it's something that has come to the forefront a little bit recently. That's really important to kind of tap into, and to keep your mind wrapped around. But as my character, it became more about her needs as a human being,
Mhm,
and perhaps more of the relationship and the love story
mhm.
between us than the psychological thriller. So it kind of depends on mentally. Again, why I mentioned, like, it depends on where you are in your life, and what you've experienced is what you're going to get out of this film.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I feel like the answer to this question is, you try not to do this, but no, kind of how we started this interview, right? About kind of putting the audience to work and everything and having an active audience member. Are there ever moments while you're on set filming this movie specifically where you're ever conscious or thinking about the audience member kind of being a detective and being active watching it? Or does that kind of happen a little bit after you wrap?
Yeah, that's Joel's job.
Yeah.
I would lose my mind. I think you have to, for this to work, I had to very clearly stay in my character's truth.
Yeah.
Um, because when I started worrying about everything else was when I was like, there were moments where, because your mind just like ping pongs. There's so much going on, that I had to constantly go back to, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Eve thinks. It doesn't matter, what the audience thinks. What I have to focus on is what my truth is.
Absolutely. Definitely kind of a psychological thriller with this film, Some Other Woman, which is available now to watch. But I'm kind of wondering, because it does have those kind of elements of horror movies where it gets really freaky at times and like you makes you think, what is it like working in that world right now of horror movies, thrillers, psychological, where they're making a lot of content right now where there's different ways to scare people. They're not just kind of leaning on traditional kind of horror movie tropes and gore and jump scares. What's that like for you from a storyteller perspective, diving into that world now at this time?
Yeah, I really love this version a lot more. I think it's so much more layered, and again, it gets people thinking. And I think some of the scariest things are what are inside your head and what you don't see, and what you imagine could happen. And so I think that's far more interesting than the traditional jump scare, the traditional kind of gore of things. Those are not my favorite, because again, I think I have a vivid imagination, and there's a lot that I can create there. And so I think it's exciting. It's more exciting to be able to dive into these things, and have a lot more going on.
Absolutely. I think if you look at your, incredible body of work, Ashley, it's different characters, but different worlds you get to be part of. And I'm wondering if you look at something like this or past projects that you've been a part of, like how separate are they once, like, versus like how separate are past projects compared to something like this? Like, do you bring kind of mindsets of preparation from past characters or projects to something like Some Other Woman? Or are they completely separate once you wrap them?
You can no, there's certainly things where you can go, oh, there's a similarity here, and then there's a similarity there. I think certainly, but I always try and kind of nip it at that. Like, the exciting thing about what we do is that it's always different. You're always playing something else. I think one of the biggest through lines that I brought is that a lot of times I'll get scripts, and I always try to make the female character a bit stronger, or I always try to make her a bit smarter.
Yeah.
And that's really important to me. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing that I try and bring throughout these things. And sometimes I have to reel it back and go, okay, this doesn't feed the story, or this doesn't service the story. And there are these moments where sometimes we do, dumb things.
Yeah.
But no, I try to keep them separate. I think I'm actually gonna like maybe dip into the comedy world a little bit, to separate, because I've done a lot of things that are a little heavier and a little darker,
Mhm.
while all different, still kind of a big emotional undertaking,
Mhm.
that I think would be nice to kind of dip into a different world for a little bit.
You guest starred on season one of Wild Cards on the CW and CBC in Canada, and that one kind of had a little bit of a comedy flair. You were great in that, by the way. That's where we spoke last year, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Thank you. Yeah, I had a blast doing that one. It was really fun. It's interesting though. I think I might have mentioned to you, but it is interesting to step into other people's worlds though, because usually I'm kind of doing something from top to
mhm.
bottom. And with Twilight, we saw people come in and out all the time, and so it was
Yep.
really humbling to jump into other people's world. And it is no
Mhm.
matter how much you do this, there is something where I'm like, oh, I'm in your world now, and like it's a little nerve wracking.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
but it's nice. It's
Yeah,
nice
for
to feel
sure.
that.
So I do have a Twilight question, but it's a specific one, and it's probably something like you're not expecting. It's very specific and cool
Oh
question. I
boy.
promise you. I was thinking about this all the time. Big music guy, right? Love music all the time. Paramore is one of my favorite bands of all time. Specifically, interesting enough, like it's one of those bands where, like, for me, like Fall Out Boy was a band. I never stopped listening to Fall Out Boy, Blink-182, Green Day, right? But Paramore,
Mhm.
I like listened to a lot in high school, stopped for a little bit, and now I like listen to them a lot, right? So I remember
Yeah.
it was a huge, big deal with Decode, right? There was the music video, it was part of the Twilight world. Take me through what you remember, like finding out that they were going to have a song for the film, finding out about the music video. Take me for anything you could tell me about Decode and Paramore with the Twilight days specifically.
Yeah, that's so funny. I literally was talking about this weekend.
Oh my God.
I geeked out so hard. Because we had, millions of people that were excited about us, but like it's also really fun to get excited about other people. And I think there's a lot of actors have so much respect and fan out over musicians. And so that was certainly the case. And I had already been a Paramore fan. And so when I heard they were coming on, I was just like, this is incredible. When I heard we were kind of doing a tour together, I could not be more excited. Like, I was like, this is just, I thought my job was cool, but I had no idea that this comes along with it. So yeah, I was so hyped. And she was hyped to be a part of it too. Like, it's really cool when you're both a fan of each other's work.
Did a lot of the cast have interactions with the band like afterwards as well? Because I know some people might not have met the band. Like, did you ever meet the band?
Yeah, we were on a plane together.
Yeah, because you were on a
We
plane
had
together in
we
the
did
music video, but sometimes it's so busy, right? So maybe you don't have the chance and
Yeah.
everything.
No, we were on a jet together because they were doing, which sounds so fancy, but we were just going from like city to city, and they were doing like, I think it might have been the Hot Topic tour,
Yes.
where like they would play
Of
these
course, there was
shows. And
that tour. I remember that. Yeah, you were obviously. Oh my god,
yeah,
you obviously remember. I remember seeing all that on MTV and everything. I'm talking about
yeah.
like when they were filming like the music video and everything. Were there ever any cross paths with that? That's
Oh,
why.
no.
Sorry, because like you were like, yeah, we did a tour together. I was like, I look back and I was like, of course I remember that. But I'm talking about more like the music video, like during that time of things.
Oh, yeah, no. I don't remember us were we a part of the music video?
I don't think you were, but I was wondering if there was any path cross or if maybe there was an event where everyone was kind of around, like woo, like Dakota or something like
Oh,
that.
no, I think the first time we, like, really, like, hung out or whatever was for the tour.
That's a great song too. It's one of my favorite songs. That little guitar part
Yeah.
too,
Well,
amazing.
she can kind of do no wrong in my like, her voice is so epic. Um, I was just watching something, of her performing on stage recently, and she's just incredible.
I know, so good. And you know, last question getting
We
back.
could just make another Twilight just so she can come back and do the soundtrack, and I can hang out with
There's
her
like
again.
things on online too, like it's a great, like they have great songs for karaoke. I don't know if you ever dabble in karaoke here and there, but Paramore songs are great on
Just asking
karaoke.
this guy was like, I am not a karaoke queen. I will cheer people on 1000%. But there's two types of actors, right? There's like the more introverted and the extroverted, and like I fall into the first category 100%. Or like whatever you want to ask me to do on set for sure. But I'm so bad at karaoke. I'm like the girl in the back. Like, speak up.
No, absolutely. Last question, getting back to some other woman quickly. There's always going to be learning experiences on a set from a storytelling acting perspective. I find it really interesting that you said you want to kind of work in the comedy world because that's a world that you haven't been able to kind of, work in a lot. You know what I mean? You want to familiarize there in that. And you've done a lot of dark things. What were some learning experiences from an acting storyteller's perspective, though, on Some Other Woman that you'll take for future projects specifically? Because there are always going to be learning experiences.
I think that it reiterated the importance of being able to tap in and tap out of emotions and mindsets because this was such a heavy content film and it was really dark that it's a lot. Like if you want if you stay into something the whole time, I find that it's so utterly exhausting and you really do kind of there's like a tap out point. And so it certainly reminded me like, oh yeah, you've got to be able to kind of like go in and go out. And then also I think the importance of creating a safe environment
Yep.
because we felt me and Amanda and Tom, I think felt the freedom to be able to kind of do crazy things and try this and try that. And what about this theory? And what about that theory? To where if you don't have a safe environment, you just, I think it puts you on mute a little bit and you lose some really magical things.
That's really well said. And like I said, people could watch Some Other Woman now. It's available VOD, which is exciting. Ashley, so great chatting with you again. You're the best. Thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you so much. You too. I love working with you and interviewing with you. So
that means a lot. Thank you so much. Your Instagram account is just it's just your name if you want to keep up to date with everything.
Yes, just Ashley Greene.
Awesome. This has been popturnitive.com/popturnitive previous episodes. Until next time, it's Ashley and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popturnitive. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popturnitive on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.